All right. I think we're good. I'm gonna do Mr. Mighty Mouse's audio, and I think BK requested that he goes on mute. Oh, I gotta crop something apparently. Goes on deafen for it. You can start talking about whatever you want, Doc.
Well, real quick before we throw it over to Glitch, we got a couple donations. I got another $50 donation from Dark9. All we needed was an incentive. Dark9 censored himself, so I don't know what this word was supposed to be, but Bowser something for charity. And then we have another $10 donation from Chaos Composer. GG on Kaizo 3. Looking forward to the rest of the event. Well, you don't have to wait very long, because we're going to get started with that right now. Glitchcat, take it away, sir.
All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. I will be taking you through this race. This is Let's Give Up. It's BK's work in progress, soon-to-be-ish release. It's a K-Pack, and that means we're going to get a ton of really cool tech. We'll try to explain it as we go. We've got Mr. Mighty Mouse and BK who made this racing. Mr. Mighty Mouse said if you want to say hey or anything, this is your guys' run.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, like Glitch said, this is a soon-to-be-released K-Pack. We're not racing all of the hack. We're racing the first 5 levels, but a lot of the levels in this hack have mini multiple sections too. Should be interesting.
Cool. Well, if everybody's ready, I will try to kind of explain the tech and things along the way. Are we ready for a countdown? Would you like me to do like an objective countdown?
I've got a timer ready, so whenever you're good.
All right, hit us.
Good, yeah.
Both ready to go? Okay, let's do on go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, dude, nice starts. You both started right on time. So heck yeah, this is it. So we have got a race, and this first level is a lot of kind of a roundup of different cape tropes and different Kaizo tech. So let's give up. You might have seen Carl Sagan's Fly Me to the Stars, and I kind of like that. Like, this is like the older, more chill brother of that hack. It's got all the cool trickery, it's got all the flash, but it's just kind of chill, as you'll see. So starting out right away, wow, with these slow munchers. Now, there is a lot going on with cape, but what you basically need to know is that when the cape is puffed out like that, Mario can destroy a lot of different sprites, and that's how he's able to plow through those rocks while like sliding on that slope. You can plow through those rocks. Doing some turnarounds there, and wow, okay, BK is in the pipe, and Mr. Mighty Mouse is trying to get in the pipe as well. There is a patch on this that makes the turnaround consistent, and that was a really unfortunate death for both BK and Mr. Mighty Mouse. They're both going to have to start again. BK in the lead a little bit right now, but that gives us a chance to talk a little bit about the turnaround. When you're holding, you can hold Y or X to float with the cape. And if you were to switch those buttons, pressing Y, now you're pressing X, you'll spin, and in the vanilla game, you have a 50% chance of turning around and facing the other direction. Well, there are some helpful patches that have been made for specifically cape, and one of the patches is this turnaround patch. And what that does is makes the turnaround completely consistent. It's still a little bit tricky to do because you kind of have to neutral and watch out for your momentum, but you're never going to have to win a 50-50 coin toss in order to turn around. And it looks like Mighty Mouse is turning it around here in this race, getting to the orb, and BK right behind. Nice. Yeah. Very, very good.
That stop before the disco shells is deceptively difficult.
Yeah, they're coming down on you. Dodging discos in the air is really tricky because they're still chasing you when they fall. So we got next level, and I did not catch the name of it, but I'm sure it's something funny. And we've got a baby Yoshi here. Baby Yoshi can eat all of these berries and grow up into larger big Yoshi. And Mr. Mighty Mouse way out ahead right now, getting the shell that's going to let them stomp the sand clouds. Getting into the pipe. BK right behind. Now figure, BK made this, so you know, it's the dev versus the prodigy here, and Mr. Mighty Mouse and BK both moving on. So this section, they're getting a little bit of flight with Yoshi getting P-Speed, and then using P-Speed throughout. So Yoshi can be kept in a flight state, and we might see that a little bit later. That's a cool trick there MrMightyMouse did on that timed carrot platform. If you run against the direction of motion, you actually can generate P-speed, and it's kind of strange, but you're always, think of it like a treadmill, like you're always running forward, and so you generate that P-speed and takeoff meter that way. Beekaay in the pipe, no surprises there, MrMightyMouse right behind. So this next section Beekaay is on right now, MrMightyMouse just getting to. We're going to be bailing off of Yoshi and using that shell to clear the way. And you notice they bailed off Yoshi and then dived back in. So Yoshi, when you land on Yoshi, you see those dive bombs happening. The dive bomb state can basically be preserved while you're on Yoshi. And that's the interesting thing about Cape is Cape is basically made out of different states. You have like a puffed out Cape state, you have like a dive state, and you have like a couple of other like negative speed states and some other things. And the issue sometimes is that you can't always see visually what state you're in, especially if you're riding on Yoshi, because all the animations just look the same. Really nice clears here for MrMightyMouse and Beekaay, getting right into that pipe and using the dive bomb really, really well. And so they're both moving on to the first Boo fight. Now there's a couple of fights like this. I don't know, I guess Beekaay could speak for himself, but taking some inspiration from Volbeat's friend. And all of these fights are Big Boos. Gonna have to hit the Big Boo 3 times, obviously, but there's a lot of tricky ways to do that. And Beekaay has kind of set up this this situation here where you're going to be sliding Yoshi along that 1F0, those clear blocks there, 1F0s. Mario can't stand on them, but Yoshi will just continue to slide, and what it does is put sprites in an infinite state of falling. So they're going to need to keep some P-speed so they can take off and then use Yoshi to eat the shells out of the wall. That's the only way to get them. And MrMightyMouse setting up for the 3rd hit and getting off Yoshi with Cape too. That was really great. MrMightyMouse moving on a section, and Beekaay is not too far behind. So now, holy moly, I don't think I've even seen this one yet. This is pretty wild. The disco shells up there are trapped by the on-off switches, and in order to flip the on-off switch, you need to ground pound. In order to ground pound, you have to get P-speed, bail off Yoshi while you're right up at the ceiling so that you remount Yoshi in a dive state and can now dive downward with Yoshi to flip the on-off switch in the wall, let the disco shells out, and they will eventually crash into the Big Boo. MrMightyMouse making it look easy. One section ahead, and Beekaay is also getting to the disco Boo fight. So some really, really intensive stuff, and I'm trying to keep you updated. But like I said, Cape is very subtle, and so there is just a lot of stuff that you might kind of look at a Cape level and just see like, wow, everything appears to be going correctly. MrMightyMouse here is using Spin Fly. This is the Sky Tree, one of the popular Kaizo tropes. We actually just saw the original Sky Tree in Lungfish's run, and MrMightyMouse just rocking this right now, using a combination of spin flight and regular flight to get up here. Remember what we said about the Cape being puffed out? Well, that can act as a damage boost, and if you have your Cape puffed out in that state and you collide with something, in this case Beekaay is using thwomps in a few areas, you'll just take damage and get some iframes and keep moving, which is kind of an interesting thing, and you can often use that in Cape levels to keep your Cape but create a sort of a gate that requires you to be flying in that moment, because otherwise you wouldn't get the damage boost. Oof, MrMightyMouse. Now, I've got to point out, MrMightyMouse dying on the black death blocks, and I think Beekaay and I are in agreement that the black colored death blocks are the proper anonymous bloodlust sanctioned proper use of death blocks. You know, the regular non-harmful ones are those brown ones. Make black, that indicates death. I think we can both agree that that is the proper way to do it. So Beekaay getting a little bit farther in that level, but they did not make it up the vine, and they needed to preserve Cape. And so both Beekaay and MrMightyMouse, no clear leader right now in the race. It could be Beekaay's time to take the lead here.
Yeah, this is the longest level in the hack when you consider all the sections and bosses. And while it's not necessarily one of the hardest, it's really easy. There's lots of, like, you see these little quick turnarounds where we're trying to keep flight. It's really easy to mess up and not get flight when you're supposed to, because you take off too soon or you land too fast. So there's lots of little things that can hold you up.
Yeah, Cape is a lot of subtlety. They little tiny movements, little tiny adjustments of angles can really make a difference. Beekaay getting through that section though, now one ahead, and using that key in conjunction with that awesome looking turn block obstacle. Those little arrow blocks bounce turn blocks in a given direction. There is just so much going on. I'm trying to keep up with this. Beekaay needed to preserve flight on that vine in order to get in the pipe up there, and now, yeah, using the vine again. So that what the vine does is it eats a Kaizo block. So if Beekaay were to jump early there'd be a Kaizo block that would prevent you from doing that. But the vine will overwrite one tile, and that's a gate to make sure that you've still kept the vine with you through that section. So Beekaay now grabbing a P-balloon here in the flight state, and the interesting thing about P-balloon is if you grab the balloon while you're flying, it will preserve your flight state once you get out of the P-balloon. And that's the trick that's being used here. That Beekaay actually has the cape puffed out flight state, and just touching the P-balloon, and that preserves it. And then you see again Beekaay grabbing the vine while they have the cape state, and if you grab the vine, that preserves it, and you can jump off of a vine and then immediately be back in cape state. That's, like I said, it's a lot of just states of being. Cape is just a state of mind. You live in the state of cape. So using a little bit of Yoshi flight right now, this is really hot. Beekaay just eating and tossing shells as he's flying to open switches and make the way, and now eating that that rainbow shell that actually gives Yoshi all the powers of a normal shell, so they can fly, and eventually it will be fire when they choose to spit it out. Holy moly. And yeah, there's the gate. Those ice blocks there to make sure that Yoshi still has the shell in his mouth at the end and can spit out fire. So MrMightyMouse making some progress, getting a little bit ahead, and Beekaay working on the boss. This is a cool one. I really enjoyed this one. You got the lava lotuses that are shooting the little blue fire, I guess. Is it fire if it's cold and blue? But shooting fire up, and the 3 shells are up there in the wall. And all that you really need to do in this section is just survive. And the Big Boo will eventually just move around, because if there's a stationary sprite, like a key, or I think even a baby Yoshi would work, or a shell, the Big Boo will just collide with it, because it just assumes that any sprite it hits is damaging it. So there are more fights here. I love the fights. It's just endless amounts of creativity. And I don't know, I can't recall seeing this one. This one looks kind of new. Beekaay's been working on this for a while. I like how the P-balloons there stay in place. Normally that's not a thing that P-balloons would do, but these ones are just kind of floating up and down. That's a nice touch, because it means you don't have to catch them. They just hang out till you need them. So Beekaay using the P-balloon here to fly up to the top, and those shells are sitting up there, and they want to knock them into that little bucket, and then they'll be moving around, and the Big Boo will have a chance to hit them. Also notice too that the Lava Lotus is actually shooting homing fire in this second room, and in the first room that MrMightyMouse is on, which is something I didn't notice originally. But the fires actually come up a little bit in the classic Lava Lotus spread pattern, and then actually start to seek toward the player kind of slowly. That makes this room a little bit more difficult, and requires a little bit more precision flying. Also, wanting to watch out for the timer. The P-balloon is on a timer, just like a P-switch or anything else, and it will expire at a certain point. So Beekaay is going to want to go back down there and grab that other P-balloon when they have the chance. Also, I think passing across that blue line will just take away the P-balloon. But they want to preserve flight, because once they get out of the P-balloon state, they're going to want to fly to get to the next one, because there's no ground to land on. So it's like, I think it's really interesting how this hack is, it's all about cape and flying around and stuff, but there's a lot of, I guess, like non-cape things, but with cape in the background. Like here you're doing a P-balloon, but yet always watching us is cape. So MrMightyMouse and Beekaay just both working on this boss right now, trying to avoid the homing fire and just get all 3 of these shells in position. Looks like the first 2 are pretty easy enough, and then getting the final 3rd one on the right is a little bit trickier, because they have to actually turn around and then get into the right-hand side of that area and push the blue shell to the left. So making that other swoop, like getting out the left side of this contraption and then getting over to the right and getting up, is a tricky part. MrMightyMouse, though, getting pretty close. He's got a shot. Watching out for that Lava Lotus fire. MrMightyMouse has the 3rd shell in. Now he's just got to wait for the Big Boo to hit it and hopefully stay alive. Oh, and there it is. Nice job. MrMightyMouse moving on. Now this is a cool boss. So as we've learned, vines and climbing preserve your flight state. That you can hang out, you can climb a vine, and then you can jump off the vine and you'll still be flying. And so Mr. Mighty Mouse is abusing that property here quite a bit to do this fight by hanging out above the vine and then flipping the shells that's keeping them up and out of the lava where they're going to fall in, and then being able to grab the vine again to just continue that flight state, because that's the only way to stay alive there. Moving on, Mr. Mighty Mouse had no problem with that one. Beekaay one fight behind, but surely able to clutch this one out. Mr. Mighty Mouse using the Yoshi wings now. This is not a cape flight trick. This is just your standard vanilla Yoshi with a blue shell in the bonus area when you go and get the wings. Vanilla runners will know about wings. We don't use wings that much in Kaizo. Like, we have like Yoshi obstacles where you're flying with Yoshi, but we don't actually use the winged block to like take you somewhere. That would be kind of cool. Pango World did that. They took you into that little bonus room that was like an auto-scroller with Yoshi. I think Morsel did that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, in Super Continent World, which is the parody of Pango World,
yes,
he also did it.
The other one I was thinking. Yeah, Super Continent World. Good call, good call. I like that one. I don't know about everybody, but I thought that was good. I thought Gabe was great.
Oof.
All right, Beekaay wrapping up the, you get another chance to see the flight preservation on the vines as Beekaay, and you need to keep that flight because that was the only thing that let Beekaay jump off the vine to the right and grab that P-switch. Otherwise, without flight, he wouldn't have been able to do that. And now Mr. Mighty Mouse moving on to an interesting area. The screen wraps around here, horizontal or vertically rather. So going down the bottom, you come out the top, and there's lots of little things to keep the player doing what you want to do. But getting into some sticky flight. Now this is an interesting thing because this used to be considered TAS only, and Mr. Mighty Mouse doing I think 3 of them in a row right there. So ha 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 ha, TAS bot. But basically the idea is that when you dive down under a ledge, like a ceiling, and then you pull up right as you're going under that ceiling, the game will just think that you're still flying up and you'll get stuck there, and that constant up flight will keep you stuck to the ceiling for as long as you want. Wow, making that section look easy. Mr. Mighty Mouse just flashing through like Flashman. Feeding a Yoshi now with this little baby Yoshi section and taking some damage on those thwimps because they were actually in cape state. That's the thing about it. It's so strange that if you're holding an object while you're flying, you're in cape state, but your graphic doesn't display that. So you just kind of have to know because the code knows. And that's the interesting thing about cape is that you're playing to the code. You're playing to what you know the code is thinking about at that moment, and sometimes less to what you're actually seeing visually on the screen. So now a little bit more sticky flight, and Mr. Mighty Mouse is diving right under there. The top and bottom of this area will wrap around, and that's going to prevent Mr. Mighty Mouse. You can't die in the pit here, but there are other things that will hurt you, namely that disco shell. You want to open those gates to let the disco shells out so that they'll hit the boo, and then kind of guide the disco shell so that it doesn't either hit you or fall in a pit like that. I like this fight in particular. I like the big open area. It's nice to just like endlessly dive bomb in a big empty sky.
Yeah, the nice thing about this fight is even if you screw up what you're normally like supposed to do, like what your strat, like you can almost always just like keep flying and do something again. Like, so it's not like an instant loss. Oof.
Yeah, that's something that I think is really nice on Beekaay's part. You can really tell Beekaay has understood cape to be able to build something with enough room to compensate and an appreciation for the subtlety with cape. Now this fight, I haven't gotten to see this one yet, but this is wicked cool. The discos are bouncing up from the ceiling and they're wrapping around to the bottom, and Mr. Mighty Mouse wants to control those and get them to hit the boo. Actually, wait, there really is no control. No, yeah, they do. Mr. Mighty Mouse wants to pull that disco to the right so that it bounces on that note block. Nice job. Good clear. Pardon me. Beekaay now getting into the vertical wraparound section as well. One thing we didn't point out is that when you're in that cape puffed out state, you can land on enemies like you see those naked Koopas and get yourself a little upward boost. And that actually can be faster than flying yourself upward.
One of the things that I love most about this is Beekaay picked such good music for this hack. And I think when people struggle with a hack, like, you know it's going to be hard for some people, good music can be, like, very important.
Yeah, it's nice to keep it chill. One thing I've been thinking about a lot with hacks, you know, we talk a lot about fairness, difficulty, blindability, and one other metric that I've been considering lately is just what I'm calling psychology. Just how does it feel? You know, what's the psychology of it? Does it keep you chill? Does it try to, you know, help you out? And I think, like you were saying, having the nice calm music really goes a long way for just psychology. It's a metric that's independent of difficulty or fairness necessarily. It's just, you know, psychology. How does it feel? Really nice moves right now. MrMightyMouse riding on those thwomps as they're moving forward and then tossing the grab blocks up into the appropriate switches to get them to open and close. Nice work on that section. That was fast.
This is the hardest room we'll be doing. It's like the only one that very consistently gives me trouble.
Yeah, a lot of these switches being on a timer. If you were to wait, the switches would close again, and you see kind of having to wait and time your dives, and then actually spinning. So when you do the X or Y spin to turn around with the cape, you can flip your cape, and you can use that as an attack or to activate a switch or something. Oof! Oof, rough shot in that vertical pipe into the upward lava. Beekaay getting through some sticky flight obstacles as well. Those little clear gold blocks you see, those are just Kaizo blocks. And it's basically there so you can dive through from the top and then pull upwards into it. And you see MrMightyMouse as well using sticky flight. Can you believe, I mean really, it's kind of fascinating to me how that trick was considered pass only at one point. And you know, now it's just part of the standard lexicon. MrMightyMouse into this boot fight, and Beekaay, ooh, almost getting into that vertical pipe. So flying with the key right now. Now this is item, excuse me, item flight. And you can do this in the vanilla game or in a lot of different Kaizo hacks. But basically, if you're in a flight state and you manage to pick up an object, the game just says, oh, well, you're holding an object now and you're still flying. And the interesting thing about that is, like I said, you can't actually see the state that you're in. You notice when you're not holding an object, you can see Mario's head dip down. You can see when he's in ground pound state because the cape is like really pulled behind him. But when you're item flying, you can't see any of that. You just see that image of Mario holding something. And so you just have to know. You just really have to be able to know and feel where you are in your dive. Am I floating? Is it time to bob upward? Like where am I? And that's something about cape, you know, just with that really intensive subtlety to it, that there's just so much going on that you can't see. But MrMightyMouse avoiding that Fanto, got all of the SMB2 shoutouts. And now, oh geez, I'm getting flashbacks to Hyper 6 with the red homing bullets in this next fight. So first off, for MrMightyMouse wants to grab that yellow shell. The kicking Koopa up there is opening and closing the on-off switches, and that is granting access to the other two shells in the wall. Oh man, a high Mario orb. Oh, why not 3 or 2 high Mario orbs? But luckily there's only the one homing bullet. There's not just more constantly firing. MrMightyMouse is out of here. Beekaay looking for a quick little cape pickup. Gets it.
So that is that is all the levels we were racing. But there are more levels on the hack.
All right, we'll show them off. I think that would be cool. Beekaay still working through, getting those Kaizo blockses, getting its Kaizo blockses, precious. Getting those Kaizo blocks for the sticky flight and guiding that disco shell elegantly through its trials. So this is an extra. You got an extra level here going on, MrMightyMouse?
I do. So this level is going to be the last optional level of the game. And fun fact, it actually, during the Hyper 6 relay that went on recently, I believe it was Umar, like, either discovered or told us some tech about, and like the day he posted that in the Discord, Beekaay went and started making this level to showcase the tech.
Yes, I recall playing this. This is the one where we can do that dive storage inside a tile like that. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting maneuver, and we found it. I think we found it because of the Hyper 6 race. I used it in my world, but basically, what you want to do is you get yourself. You're in like a 2-tile wide vertical channel. Nice job, BK, on the clear. You're in like a 2-tile. What's that? That's a 3-tile vertical channel, and you get yourself into a dive state. And then you pull up out of the dive state and tap B and hold the opposite direction you're facing to get negative momentum. And for whatever reason, that stores a dive so that when you get under that corner, you can just boop yourself right under there and start out with sticky fly. It's a really interesting move, and it's very, very technical. And that's one of those things where, again, Cape just preserving states that you can't see. That you just kind of know that you have that dive stored, and you're only in that dive state for just a second. It does sound TAS only. But yeah, that's how MrMightyMouse is getting that sticky flight and sticking to the ceiling through that area. BK moving through the spin jumping section, using again that damage boost with the cape to pass through those swamps without actually losing the ever precious cape. And now moving into another on-off section.
Man, this is a hard level. There's a reason this is like the optional final level.
I really like this one. I did. I played a bit of this. This one was cool.
I think you were the first person to beat it, though, Glitch.
Was I? Well, I mean, BK beat it. Back. All right, yay! We still got MrMightyMouse fighting the optional boss, and BK working on this big boo.
Okay, yeah, we're back.
All right.
I don't know why randomly. Well,
it's a thing. It's a thing.
I know. I'm just laughing because the internet here is generally really stable for streaming. And suddenly, just randomly, you know, the one day I need it, it just goes down twice in one day. You know, marathon things.
I do know. Yup.
This boss is definitely the hardest in the game that I've seen. It requires you to not only go into these boost circles and grab the block and fly out, you know, without losing flight, but in order to actually hit the boo, you need to do tech where you, right after the pump, you release the run button to throw the block and then re-grab it within, like, I think it's a max of like 6 frames. See, like, if you don't do it right in the right part of the animation, and like you're essentially re-grabbing run before the animation ends.
Yeah, I mean, basically you need to keep holding run while you're flying. And so yeah, like MrMightyMouse said, you have to let go to throw the object, but that letting go would cancel your flight. So you can re-tap in 6 frames and keep flight, which is the only thing keeping you alive. So yeah, BK moving through this Phanto fight. You know, there could be 2 Phantoms, but there's only one because BK is merciful. And needing to open these on-off blocks again to drop the shell. He wants to be careful about where the boo is, because if the boo isn't right below the shell, it'll just drop into the lava. And of course, watching out for the Phanto, because any collision with the Phanto will break your flight.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm really lucky to have gotten out of that Phanto fight as quickly as I did, because like there are kind of patterns to make the Phanto work, but it's incredibly easy to mess. Like if you mess it up just a little, all of a sudden the Phanto's flying around and you don't know where he's coming from. So it's a very hard fight to get consistent.
That's something that happens with the Himari orbs too. It's just because it tracks you so effectively. It really does a good job. Like the things like the Fugu, the fishing boo, even the disco shell kind of has like, it's kind of slow to react, you know, and that the slowness of reaction on the part of the enemy is what gives you the adaptability to kind of be able to move around and avoid it. But the more effectively it tracks you, it becomes really difficult to, one, avoid it at all, and two, it becomes difficult to have a consistent pattern, because the more effectively it tracks you, the more precise and repeatable you have to be with your movements. That if you do something slightly different, it's going to veer off, like MrMightyMouse said, in a completely different direction.
Oof.
All right, Beekaay moving on, using the flying Yoshi now and watching out for that homing bullet bill. Yoshi wing flight is definitely a little bit easier to work with than cape, and I think that's kind of designed on purpose that way.
Well, I was gonna say that's the other big thing is when you have a cape with a Yoshi with wings, you don't actually have to press jump repeatedly to fly. You can just hold it. So it does.
Is that so?
Yeah. So another big Yoshi wing flight section that people might know is at the end of Elephants, and in that you can just hold it because he's nice enough to give you a cape.
Is that a property of the vanilla game?
It is.
Wow, I literally learned that. I was right now old when I learned that, and for that level in Elephants, I tapped the entire way up that Yoshi tower. I literally did not know you could do that. Dang, that's actually very cool. And nice job, Beekaay. Way to get out. Roscoe's House of Switches and Waffles.
Oh, this is a tough boss fight that Mouse is doing.
I almost beat the one and then you die, Beekaay. Well, while the stream was crashed, I on the second or third attempt into that boss, I beat it and then waited forever and then crashed into lava and just didn't wait long enough. Oh.
Nice.
No one saw that. It never happened.
So
I
overheard you guys talking about the timing here. I didn't want to comment because I was trying to win whatever I was playing. The timing is actually variable, and so the way the game works is it checks whether the run button is pressed every time the flight animation changes. And so basically what that means is that the window within which you can release and re-grab X depends where you are in the flight animation and how many frames away it is from changing. So optimally, if you let go of it 2 frames after you release it, right as you start your cape pump, so 2 frames after you press the D-pad left or right to start a pump, if you release it 2 frames after that, you have a whole 6 frames to grab it again.
That's the good case.
Which is why I think people... Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said that's the good case scenario too.
Yeah, and so that's why the people who are good at this have a rhythm of basically releasing and repressing it right after they press left and right on the D-pad, which is probably what Mouse is doing as well.
It's almost like the... Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
And then basically, I was just going to say that the worst case is 1 frame, which is extremely hard to do if you get if you press it right as the cape animation is going to change and the game is about to check it on the following frame.
It's almost like the cape equivalent of a midair. That you're doing a directional input and a release and a regrab of the button at a very specific window, based on kind of where you are in your image or animation rather.
Barb, thank you so much for the raid. Very, very generous of you. I'm sure that's exactly what Mouse wanted to hear right now while he's looking at his own boss fight.
This is the optional for fun boss. I don't care about this one. No.
While Mouse is doing that, I guess I'll see if I can knock this out.
Yeah, for everybody just joining us, this is a race. We have completed the race. We're doing some optional tough content. This is Beekaay's forthcoming K-Pack, Let's Give Up, and it is really super cool. We've got MrMightyMouse and Beekaay himself working on on clearing this out. Mr. Mighty Mouse is currently working on the really tough final boss at the end. We were talking a little bit about the up throw tech that you need to preserve your flight, and you see Beekaay going through a really tough section involving a lot of shell tricks, bouncing off shells and holding shells, and also doing that, excuse me, the dive preservation, where you can dive inside a vertical channel that's moving, obviously vertical, a vertical channel that's vertical. Nice job. Using the key to get in the pipe there, needs to be able to stand on the key. That was really solid.
This boss fight is nothing short of evil.
And I guess now is a good time to remind everyone that we are doing this marathon for charity. This is all for the Bail Project.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, the Bail Project is a charity that seeks to combat mass incarceration in America by providing financial assistance to people who struggle meeting bail financial requirements for trial intervention. For more information, you can find that link that TRMB just dropped in the chat. Tiltify.com/@SMWC/SWC as well. You can find more information about the Bail Project there. Also, find out more information about some of the stuff that we're doing here today and tomorrow. Plus, you can see some of the cool stuff that we've had happen already. We had a phenomenal run of Kaizo 3 from Monkfish 3000 earlier. That was very impressive. So we really appreciate you guys coming around. If you stick around for just a few minutes, Glitchcat, who's doing commentary for this race right now, is going to be showing off various dragons. He's probably going to be doing it in a way that very few people have ever seen Super Mario played before, so you're not going to want to miss that. That's coming up in just a few minutes here. While we let Mighty Mouse and Beekaay on all of us with their cape skills for just a little bit longer.
Take your time, guys. It's going to be pretty wild.
We have had a couple donations coming through. Patches XLI with $10 saying much love, and TJB with a $2 donation asking, can we get a small donation train going?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat for you. It is a Tiltify link, but you can find it on SMW's Twitter. You can find it on the front page of SMW Central right now as well. Yo, Mighty Mouse, almost getting there.
It cannot be understated how actually difficult this fight is. It's a very simple concept that is very, very difficult.
True that.
Yeah, for those wondering, if you're just joining us, Mr. Mighty Mouse is working on a section that requires a really specific bit of tech that we were actually just talking about when everybody joined. But basically, you need to hold down the run button to preserve your flight, but you also need to release the run button in order to throw the object that you're holding. And unpressing to throw, and then repressing to keep flight is a very, very tricky maneuver with, at best, a 6-frame window. And Mr. Mighty Mouse needs to do that, I think, 3 times in a row to be able to win this fight while dodging the boo rings to go in to grab the grab lock and then come out. And so Mr. Mighty Mouse will need, well, Beekaay too, when he gets there, will need 3 separate instances of that trick. Basically, they want to try to release right as the pump animation. You see Mario's head kind of dip down and pull up. That's what we refer to as a pump. The only difficulty is it's a lot trickier to kind of see that when you're holding an item, because when you're holding an item, you can't see the cape state. You only kind of see the cape flutter behind you. And it's the same timing, it's the same timing window, but without that visual of the cape and Mario's head moving, it can be a little bit more difficult to get the timing right. And so that's what we're working on right now. Beekaay is also working on a different fight involving some bullets, and we have the turnaround patch on so that when you change direction left or right, it's consistent as opposed to the vanilla game where it's a 50-50. And Beekaay will need to use the cape turnaround. You spin your cape while you're doing that, and in that moment you can kill enemies. So all these bullets firing out of the wall, Beekaay can either kind of get up over and bop them, or spin, kill them, and get them out of the way.
An especially rude thing I did for a few of the survival sections, actually maybe all the survival sections, is I placed one of the shells like just out of the way of the Boo's third cycle, so you like need like several more seconds to survive while he like swerves around and then finally hits it a lot later than the player would like.
Yeah, it's a very subtle, mean thing that Beekaay did. Where he just like moved one of the shells over like one block and he's like, now they'll have to wait 3 more cycles.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, that all works because the Big Boo is actually, it's on a pattern. It's going to move the same way and do the same little swoops every time. It's not trying to track you, and it's not random. So it can be known at any point, if you let the Big Boo survive, it can be known where and when it's going to cross a particular tile.
Some people who don't have a lot of experience with this game, I've noticed, ask like whether the move can be manipulated, and he does always look at you, he does always face you, but that has no bearing on his hitbox. And so I think the fact that he faces you makes people think that you can somehow manipulate where he goes.
Yeah, in the vanilla game, the Big Boo actually doesn't have a hitbox, which is interesting because in the actual Big Boo fight in the vanilla game, you can literally just stand there and pick up 3 blocks, and you don't even have to move inside that room, which is just kind of funny.
Yeah, this tech is something you kind of just have to get a feel for. It's a little interesting that way.
If I can jump in real fast, I think what we're gonna do is when we hit 6:30, we are going to, so about 5 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and switch it out to move on to the next one because, well, technically we're behind schedule, but we're having so much fun that I think everybody's all right with that. So in about 5 minutes, we are going to finish this up and prep for Glitch Cat to play Various Dragons.
We've had some donations come through as well. Susgod with a $2 donation saying keep it rolling. Anonymous with a $5 donation. Every bit counts. Link Dead, he donated $10. Couch Mom, $10 again. Great content for a great cause. And another anonymous donation for $10.
I don't know about y'all, but I am definitely excited to see Various Dragons. For anybody who doesn't know what that is because they haven't seen anybody play it, because you might not have, it is very hard and it's not something people play very often. Glitch Cat made a series of incredibly hard shell levels, like Glitch Cat level shell levels, and he's going to be playing through them.
I'm going to be attempting. I was nice job on the clear there for DK. I mean, I was planning on talking about ahead of time, but this is the kind of thing where there are, what, like 4 levels? I could take the entire time on one, or I could beat them all. I have no idea what you're all about to see, but I've got something fun for you. But I'm not taking away from you guys. You do you. I'll have my chance to talk about it. So Beekaay and MrMightyMouse both on this Boo fight now. We got 2 minutes to go. I want to see somebody get it.
I'd just like to thank Beekaay for the music that he put in this fight. This fight had bad music. It would be rough. Because it is a hard fight.
This is a subtle callback to my race level, which had some Boo rings and this song. For ROM hack races, that is week number 15, back in the day. when we were but a small, budding organization.
Back before we had ratings for the levels, everyone would just be like, what are we going to play tonight?
Yeah, it was week 15. Tonight is week
Got him.
98.
Oh, that was
Dang.
amazing. Oh, no way. Oh, I thought Mr. Mighty Mouse got the last hit right at that time. Nice job, BK. And in the time limit.
Look at that.
All right, so that is the entirety of post game.
Oof.
Perfectly timed. You know what? I'll count that, Mr. Mighty Mouse. You got the 3 hits.
Oof. It's a tough one. It's a tough boss.
It looks so hard. I could not do that. I can't do any game tricks. Alright.
Alright, this was fun. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a fantastic hack. And great job on the race, you two.
This was great. This was great.
Alright. Oh, go on.
No, I was just going to say we were going to transition out to switch some things out, and when you see us again here momentarily, we'll be back with Glitch Cat, and he will be showing off some various dragons for y'all.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
What do you know?
Yeah, good luck, Glitch.